Today, I'm going to compare political regionalism in Ukraine and South Korea. Contents. The reason why I chose this subject. The case of Ukraine. The case of South Korea. What we should learn from the case of Ukraine to solve that of South Korea. There are two reasons why I chose this subject. The first one is the importance and magnitude of regional problems that are underlying for both countries. The second is that regionalism is no more of a problem for any specific country, but a common task for our global village. As we can see, Russian invasion of Ukraine that was caused by regionalism. Regionalism can have an effect on the international situation. So, the case of Ukraine in terms of history. Ukraine has experienced occupation by the Russian Empire, Soviet Union, Austria-Hungary Empire, Poland, and Lithuania. The western part had usually been occupied by Poland and Austria-Hungary Empire, and the eastern parts by the Russian Empire, especially. In the 17th century, the Pereyaslav Treaty between the Russian Empire and Poland divided Ukraine into two pieces, and before the collapse of the Soviet Union, the western and eastern sections of Ukraine stayed 50 years together. In terms of politics, the distinctive history of Ukraine also has an influence on politics. The countries who occupy the western part cannot care about Ukraine because Ukraine is too far from them and they have a democratic system. So the Western elite had a better chance for nationalism and their own identity. But Russia, who occupied the eastern part, strongly prosecuted Russification in eastern Ukraine. As a result, Ukrainian and Ukraine are treated like Russians are. In terms of economics, as you can see, the western section's major industry is agriculture. On the contrary, the eastern part's major industry is heavy industry, such as metal and military. Heavy industry being related with Russia. Most Eastern people are usually pro-Russia. 3 times tell that the Eastern and Western sections are totally different systematically from a long time ago, and it's very difficult to bring accord into Ukraine. The case of South Korea. In terms of history, according to this picture, Honam never has been a capital, but Yeongnam had been a capital of Silla for almost 1,000 years, especially Wangan, who established Goryeo said in his Hunyo 10조, which was for his descendants, that we should not hire people from Honam. In terms of politics, after getting independence from Japan Empire, for 40 years, Korean presidents were from Yeongnam. Even though presidents should be objective, they filled people from Yeongnam, which accounts for about 50% of political elites. In terms of economics, as Korean presidents were from Yeongnam for 40 years, in the process of modernization, there has been enormous gap between Yeongnam and Honam, while Honam has been left as an agricultural region. Yeongnam has become a region of heavy industry, where LG, Samsung, and Hyundai were founded. What we should learn from the case of Ukraine to solve their South Korea. We must remember that regionalism might cause the collapse of one country, as we can see right now in Europe. Fortunately, modern regionalism of South Korea is caused in the process of modernization. So we should do two things. First one is we must not vote for someone who uses regionalism as an election platform. Thus, politicians have made things worse over the past century. The second one is that we should introduce a local quota system. If we stand shoulder to shoulder, we can avoid what many Ukrainians are facing now and achieve more than what our ancestors have achieved. Thank you for listening my presentation. Thank you.